Welcome once again to my channel. My name is Ufusu Godwin, a marketing professional and a marketing trainer. In today's video, we're going to look at how to master sales prospect qualifying or sales prospect qualifying techniques. In my previous video, I talked about the fact that one of the reasons why some salespeople or some businesses are not able to sell is their inability to qualify prospects. Not every person that you approach will be a customer of your product. People waste many hours pursuing prospects who are not a good fit for their product or service. Now, let's take a look at some of the techniques that you can use to qualify prospects. These are offline techniques. So now let's go. The first technique I'm going to talk about is called the BANT Framework. B-A-N-T, the BANT Framework. The first B stands for budget, the next B stands for authority, the N stands for need, and the T stands for timeline. BANT is a simple technique that is used to qualify sales prospects, and it helps you to be able to easily check if a lead is worth spending resources on and pursuing. This will help you to learn about the details of each prospect. So now let's take the first budget. Now it is important to look at the prospects or the potential customer's budget. Affordability. Do they have the necessary wallet or do they have the necessary financial resources to afford your product and services? Getting to know about a prospect's budget is very important, but you should do it in such a way that it not become too pushy and too much of interrogating to find out how much the person or the business have in their budget. It is simple about you knowing if they have the funds set aside for your product and services, right? So for example, you can ask or find out by asking very simple questions from the prospect. Please, what kind of investment were you anticipating for this particular product or for this particular solution? Right. So this tends to give you an input into how the business or the prospect is going to finance the cost of your product or services. Now, are they having a budget down, or maybe they probably want to go and take a loan, etc. This will give you an idea as to the feasibility of the prospect. Now let's look at authority. In every business, especially for B2B customers, there's what we call the decision-making unit. These are people within the organization that make decisions when it comes to buying a product or service. It is very important to know who has the power to say yes or no. These decision makers would guide you as to whether the prospects are worth it. So you can ask, for example, who else in your team is typically involved in decisions regarding your product or regarding buying. This is also very important. Now you need to also do a need analysis. Do they have a problem that your product or service solves? It is important to uncover what the problems that the prospect is seeking a solution for. Find out about the struggles that the prospect has. Can your product fix these problems? So for example, you can ask the prospect, what are the biggest challenges you are currently facing with your systems? For example, if you are selling software, etc. This is important to be able to understand, because if they don't need fully your service or they don't need fully your product to solve a solution for them, you can do several presentations upon presentations and you will not get this prospect in converting to become a buyer. Another thing we also talk about is timeline. When do they need a solution? It is very important to also consider timeline. How urgent is the prospect's problem? Do they need it in 3 months? Do they need it in 1 year? Do they need it in 2 years' time? Find out when they need the solution, and this will guide you as to whether this is a hot prospect, a hot lead or not. If they give you a time away from now, if it's a long time, let's say 6 years from now, you can also classify them under your long-term prospects and nurture them till the time. So you focus on those who have immediate need. So for example, you can ask the question, what's your ideal time frame for having a solution in place to address this? What is your time frame? So they'll be able to give you an information as to the time frame that they need this particular product or service. Now we're going to look at another framework called the MEDDIC Framework, MEDDIC. The MEDDIC stands for M stands for metrics, E stands for economic buyer, D stands for decision criteria, the other D stands for decision process, the I stands for identify pain, and the C stands for champion. MEDDIC is more of like a bit advanced method or framework that is usually used in the complex business to business, so those selling complex machinery, expensive machinery that organizations use in supporting their business. So let's take the first metrics. How will they measure success? So with this, you should understand how you're going to measure success when they buy your equipment. Is it going to cut down on rework? Is it going to cut down on accidents? Is it going to cut down on defects, etc.? These are very important issues you need to look at. With this, you need to focus on measurable business results that the prospect wants, so that they would basically be classified as a hot lead. They are looking for a solution, and you need to know the measurable results. It is also very important. Now, let's talk about economic buyer. Who controls the budget? This one, we came across this in the BANT, so we're not going to talk a lot about this. So it zeroes in onto the person who holds the financial power. Is this the MD, or maybe there's a board that have to approve monies before this purchase is done? It is important to be able to find out and get more information. Does it need to go in for board approval, etc., etc.? You need to know all this, right? And there are several ways that you can know. You can go online and research about the company's board of directors, etc. Most companies publish information about their board of directors and their key decision makers, right? Now let's look at decision criteria. This also talks about specific features and benefits. So the FAB comes in features and benefits. What are the specific features and benefits that will guide their choice? What will make them pick your solution over another? So maybe you need to look at whether they are the type of company that requires a lot of customer service, that requires a lot of support, after sales support. All this will guide their choice and will make them pick your product over others. So this will also let you understand that these leads or these prospects are the right prospects. Let's look at decision process. It is important to also map out, of course, map out all the internal steps and people involved in the buying decision. Like I told you, we have the decision making unit. So maybe there's an engineer, there's a procurement person, there's a finance manager, etc. Right? So it is important to also find out about the decision-making unit. You can research and get to know who and who are within the decision-making process. This will help you understand their internal flow. It is also important to identify their pain point. What is the core problem? This is per the MEDDIC strategy. What is their core problem? Go deep into the real cause of their problems. What happens if they do nothing? And what are the consequences? Could there be an explosion? if they don't get the product? Could there be accidents at the workplace if you don't get your product or if you don't get your services? It is important to understand all this. Now, you also need to, the last C is a champion. The champion talks about advocates. You see, if you take every organization, like I said, we have the decision-making unit, right? There is someone who initiates a problem. Let's say a technician working on a machine realizes that the machine is faulty, or a software technician working on the software realizes that the software has a problem and then needs replacement. This person goes to tell his boss. The boss will then go and report it to procurement, and then maybe it goes to management meeting, etc., and even probably maybe to board. You need an advocate to support the buying of this particular product or service. It is important to be able to spot the advocates within the business or the organization and then find out how advocacy for buying new products is like. Is there a constraint on technician or executive or managerial decisions from above? You need to find about this, and this will help you, as a matter of fact, to qualify the prospects. Like I said, the MEDDIC is usually used for complex business-to-business products. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and subscribe. Don't forget to comment, share, and like.